All right, let's just dive right into this explainer, okay? We're going to completely deconstruct why you might be losing money in the markets, even if you actually have all the right strategies. Because, look, we've all been there. Months go by, literally years pass, and yet the exact same trading mistakes just keep happening. You know exactly what you're supposed to do, but in the heat of the moment, the plan goes completely out the window. Well, today, we're fixing that. We are going to dig into the source material from Anthony Creel's brilliant guide to a 21-day mindset reset. 90%. A staggering 90% of traders fail within their very first year. Just let that sink in for a second. People enter the market with shiny eyes, they're binging videos, joining chat groups, desperately looking for that one secret indicator. But they fail. And it's not because of a bad strategy. It's because they lack discipline when facing the absolute battlefield of the stock market. Because out there, being smart doesn't win. Discipline wins. It's a pretty painful reality to face, right? Why do we keep breaking our own rules? Well, the source material we're analyzing today gives us a definitive answer, and more importantly, a clear roadmap out of this trap. We are unpacking Anthony Creel's 8 formulas for a complete 21-day psychological turnaround. And listen, this isn't just about learning some new concepts. It's about tearing down your old habits and rebuilding them entirely from the ground up. We'll be breaking this 21-day journey down into 6 specific phases: winning the inner battle, shifting your trader identity, building a resilient system, surviving the market storm, execution without hesitation, and finally, the power of consistency. Kicking things off with Phase 1, winning the inner battle, specifically focusing on discipline and emotional control. So, here's a pretty harsh truth for you. Your biggest enemy? It's not the market, it's not the institutional traders or the brokers. It's actually the person staring back at you in the mirror. And that brings us to Formula 1. Discipline is destiny. Think of a swordsman for a second. If he just stops practicing, the moment he actually steps onto a real battlefield, his own weapon is going to feel way too heavy to even lift. The market is exactly the same. Without sharpening your rules every single day and resisting that urge to take impulsive trades, the market will strike you down on the very first blow. The irony here? It's actually the super boring routines that create highly profitable traders. Moving on to Formula 2, emotion control, because you've got these two demons constantly whispering in your ear, right? On one side, you have fear yelling, "Run, you're gonna lose it all," which causes panic selling and total paralysis. And then, on the flip side, you have greed whispering, "Just hold on a little longer, the jackpot is right around the corner," which makes you bet way too big. A professional trader hears these demons too, but completely ignores them by using predefined stop losses and fixed risk-reward ratios. Silencing those two voices, it's literally the only way to survive. This quote from Anthony Creel really hits the nail on the head. The market is a psychological battlefield. It rewards those who wait and punishes those in a hurry. The source material makes it incredibly clear that mastering these emotions is entirely non-negotiable. If you let impatience and emotion run the show, the market will gladly just take your money and hand it right over to someone who knows how to wait. Now for Phase 2, shifting your trader identity, which is all about resetting how you see yourself. Listen, buying a fancy new indicator or upgrading your software platform, that's not going to do a single thing if your mindset is still exactly the same. Formula 3 requires you to actually look in the mirror and make a deliberate identity shift. Because as long as you view yourself as a gambler, someone seeking thrills and treating every single trade like a scratch-off lottery ticket, you are eventually going to zero. You have to actively choose to be the professional. The professional embraces the boring routines and views trades as strict, cold business decisions. Ultimately, the market is going to treat you exactly the way you view yourself. Next up is Phase 3, building a resilient system, exploring daily structure and the art of patience. Which brings us to Formula 4, daily structure. You know the saying, random habits always yield random results. If you just roll out of bed and randomly open up some charts, you are practically begging for trouble. A rigid daily structure is like an ironclad fortress that protects you from the market's total unpredictability. You absolutely need 4 non-negotiable steps: pre-market analysis, exact risk calculation, mandatory trade journaling, and a brutal end-of-day review. This structure is the secret to becoming bulletproof against all the chaos happening out there. And having that structure paves the way for Formula 5, patience. Think of a really skilled archer. Patience isn't a weakness for them, right? Holding back their arrows until everything perfectly aligns is their ultimate edge. New traders, on the other hand, often treat the chart like a slot machine. They just want to click a button every 5 minutes just to feel something. but the professional knows that doing absolutely nothing is often the single most profitable position you could possibly take. Phase 4 takes us into surviving the market storm and the absolute necessity of adaptability. I just absolutely love this metaphor from the source text because it captures Formula 6, adaptability, so perfectly. The market is never going to stay the same. If you stubbornly stick to a single strategy when market conditions drastically change, you're like the rigid oak tree. You will be wiped out. You have to be the bamboo. You got to bend with the wind, adjust your timeframes, adjust your risk, and just flow with the price action. Because guess what? The market is never wrong. History has shown us this time and time again, like surviving the 2008 crash. Darwin's rule absolutely applies to trading. It's not the strongest or the smartest who survive. It's the ones who adapt the fastest. A rigid trader is going to sit there yelling at the screen that the market is wrong while their account slowly bleeds out. But the adaptable trader, they see the shift, they move to cash, they start shorting, and they actually survive to trade another day. Now we're on to phase 5, execution without hesitation. Basically, pulling the trigger. Okay, so we've built the armor, we've honed the mindset, and we know exactly how to wait. But Formula 7 reminds us that all of that is literally useless if you freeze up on the battlefield. Formula 7 is execution mastery. You have got to let go of waiting for the perfect trade, because execution mastery requires decisiveness, even when your heart is pounding. It's about imperfect action at the exact right time. When your system flashes green, you act like a surgeon. Cold, calculated, zero debate. Because if you hesitate out of fear, that opportunity vanishes forever. So what does true execution actually look like? Well, it means never overtrading just because you're bored and never undertrading just because you're scared. It also means exiting your trades with the exact same level of precision as your entries. I mean, so many people get the entry right, but then they let their ego completely ruin the exit. Treating your trading plan as absolute law is what separates the people who just read about trading from the ones who actually conquer it. So ask yourself this honestly right now. Are you ready? Are you ready to pull the trigger without hesitation? Because taking that calculated, totally emotionless strike is the only way you're ever going to capitalize on all that patience. If you've done the heavy lifting, built your fortress, and waited like that archer, you owe it to yourself to let the arrow fly without a single second thought. And that brings us to our final phase, phase 6, the power of consistency, the glue that holds it all together. This is Formula 8, the master formula, the one that actually turns theory into immense wealth. Consistency. Honestly, consistency can feel incredibly boring. But repeating these small, highly disciplined steps day after day, just like a river slowly cutting through a massive rock, that is exactly how ordinary people generate truly extraordinary wealth. It is not about hitting one lucky home run. It's about doing the boring, repetitive, disciplined work when absolutely no one is watching every single day. There's a really stark reality we pulled from the source material regarding the makeup of a winner. Everyone out there is hunting for the perfect setup, right? But knowledge and setups, that's only 10% of the game. Almost everyone has access to the exact same books, the same charts, the same indicators. But only the 10% of people who execute consistently, who tackle that massive 90% chunk of the daily grind, are the ones who actually survive and thrive. So here is your complete arsenal, all 8 formulas assembled. Discipline starts the journey. Emotion control protects you from yourself. That identity shift changes your whole perspective. Daily structure builds your fortress. Patience gives you your edge. Adaptability keeps you alive in the storm. Execution makes you money. But consistency, that is the ultimate glue that takes all of this and makes you a complete professional trader. The entire blueprint to transform from a gambler to a professional is laid out right in front of you. You now know exactly what separates the 90% who fail from the 10% who win. So the only question left is, do you have the discipline to shed your old identity and start your 21-day reset tomorrow morning? The market is waiting.